There's a cruel irony in spiritual seeking. The more desperately you want to change, the more you activate the very brain states that make change impossible. Your amygdala interprets urgency as danger, flooding your system with cortisol and adrenaline. These stress hormones literally shut down neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new neural pathways. So the harder you try, the more stuck you become, trapped in a neurochemical prison of your own making. Your brain operates on different frequencies throughout the day, like radio stations you can tune into. Beta waves dominate when you're thinking, analyzing, problem-solving, existing in that familiar state of mental chatter. But transformation happens in alpha states, those slower, deeper frequencies that emerge when your mind settles into a rhythm of around 8 to 12 cycles per second. Here's what most people don't understand. It takes approximately 20 minutes for your brain to shift from beta dominance into sustained alpha coherence. During these 20 minutes, something extraordinary occurs at the cellular level. Your neurons begin producing brain-derived neurotrophic factor, a protein that literally grows new brain cells and strengthens the connections between them. Your DNA starts expressing different genes, turning off the genetic programs associated with stress and survival, and activating genes linked to growth, healing, and higher consciousness. But this genetic reprogramming only occurs when you can sustain these elevated states for extended periods, not in the brief moments of forced positivity that most people mistake for transformation. The difference between relaxation and genuine neural reconfiguration is like the difference between lying on a beach and learning to surf. Relaxation feels pleasant but doesn't fundamentally change your brain's wiring. True neuroplasticity requires what neuroscientists call focused attention combined with emotional elevation. You need to be deeply present and simultaneously elevated beyond your ordinary emotional baseline. This combination creates the neurochemical environment necessary for lasting change. Michael was a 62-year-old executive who had spent decades believing he was fundamentally broken. Anxiety had been his constant companion since childhood, shaping every decision, every relationship, every moment of potential joy. He tried therapy, medication, meditation apps, everything the experts recommended. Nothing seemed to penetrate the deep grooves of worry that ran through his mind like ancient riverbeds. Then he discovered the 20-minute practice. Not meditation as he had known it, but sustained coherence practice. For 3 months, he committed to 20 minutes every morning of heart-brain synchronization, maintaining elevated emotional states while his nervous system gradually rewired itself. By month 3, he was no longer the same person. The anxiety that had defined him for 6 decades had dissolved, not through force or medication, but through consistent neural reorganization. Your heart is not just a pump. Hidden within your chest beats an electromagnetic generator more powerful than your brain, containing over 40,000 neurons that form their own neural network. These heart neurons don't just respond to your brain's commands, they send more signals up to your brain than they receive downward. Your heart is literally thinking, processing, making decisions that influence your perceptions, your emotions, your capacity to access higher states of consciousness. Most people live disconnected from this heart intelligence, trapped in the narrow bandwidth of mental analysis. They try to manifest, to create change, to transform their lives through thoughts alone, never understanding why their efforts feel forced, why their visualizations feel empty, why their affirmations bounce off reality like stones skipped across water. The heart generates an electromagnetic field that extends 3 to 8 feet beyond your body, a field that carries information, that communicates with other electromagnetic fields, that literally shapes the quantum field of possibilities around you. Heart rate variability is the rhythm of transformation. When you breathe consciously for 20 minutes, when you intentionally cultivate feelings of gratitude, compassion, or appreciation, your heart rhythm shifts from chaotic patterns into coherent ones. This coherence creates a cascade of neurochemical changes that ripple through every system in your body. Your vagus nerve carries these coherent signals to your brain, shifting you out of sympathetic nervous system dominance into parasympathetic restoration, the state where healing, growth, and higher perception become possible. The difference between thinking positive thoughts and feeling elevated emotions is the difference between trying to start a fire with wet matches and igniting dry kindling with a focused flame. Thoughts without corresponding heart coherence lack the energetic juice to create lasting change. But when your heart and mind align in coherent states, when you can sustain appreciation or gratitude or love for extended periods, you generate the electromagnetic signature of your desired future reality. Here's a technique that changed everything for thousands of people. Breathe in for 5 counts, hold for 5, exhale for 5, hold empty for 5. This 5-5 rhythm naturally synchronizes your heart rate variability, creating coherence between your heart and brain in approximately 12 to 15 minutes. But don't just breathe mechanically. With each inhale, draw energy up from your heart to your brain. With each exhale, send appreciation from your brain back down to your heart. Feel the circuit of energy, the conversation between these two centers of intelligence. This is how you access states that your thinking mind could never reach alone. You are not running your life. For 95% of your waking hours, your subconscious mind is in control, operating from programs that were downloaded in your first 7 years of life. During those early years, your brain existed primarily in theta frequencies, the same brain waves present during hypnosis. Every interaction, every emotion, every belief system you witnessed was absorbed directly into your subconscious without the filter of critical thinking. You were, quite literally, in a prolonged state of hypnotic absorption. These early programs become the invisible operating system running beneath your conscious awareness. You might consciously desire abundance, success, love, but if your subconscious was programmed with scarcity, failure, or abandonment during those formative years, it will sabotage your conscious efforts with the precision of a heat-seeking missile. Your subconscious doesn't care about your dreams or goals. It cares about survival, and survival means maintaining familiar patterns, even painful ones, because familiar equals safe to your primitive brain. The beautiful revelation is that the same theta brainwave states that programmed you in childhood can be accessed to reprogram yourself as an adult. 20 minutes of sustained theta states can begin to overwrite decades of conditioning, but only if you understand how to work with your subconscious rather than against it. Your conscious mind operates at about 40 bits of information per second. Your subconscious processes 11 million bits per second. Trying to change subconscious programs through willpower alone is like trying to stop a freight train with a feather. The key is becoming aware of your automatic programs while they're running. Most people live in such unconscious reactivity that they never notice the gap between stimulus and response, never catch themselves running the same emotional reactions, the same thought patterns, the same behavioral loops that have been playing for decades. But in those 20-minute windows of heightened awareness, you can become the observer of your own programming, witnessing your automatic responses without being consumed by them. When you catch yourself in an automatic pattern, anxiety about the future, anger about the past, that familiar feeling of not being enough, instead of trying to stop it or change it, simply observe it. Notice how it feels in your body, what thoughts accompany it, what emotions arise. This witnessing consciousness, sustained for 20 minutes or more, begins to create space between you and your programming, space where choice becomes possible, where you can respond rather than react, where the person you're becoming can emerge from beneath the layers of who you've been conditioned to be. Your body is a sophisticated drug manufacturing plant, producing chemicals that match every emotional state you experience. When you feel anger, your body produces a specific cocktail of stress hormones, neurotransmitters, and neuropeptides. When you feel joy, it produces an entirely different chemical signature. Over time, your cells become addicted to whatever emotions you feel most frequently, developing receptor sites that crave those familiar chemical baths. This is why feeling good can feel wrong when you're used to feeling bad. Your cells are literally going through withdrawal when you try to sustain states of joy, peace, or love if your normal emotional baseline is anxiety, anger, or sadness. Your body sends urgent signals to your brain. Where are my familiar drugs? I need my daily dose of worry, my regular hit of frustration, my comfort food of familiar suffering. This biochemical addiction is one of the most powerful forces keeping you trapped in old patterns. The 20-minute threshold is crucial because it takes approximately 18 to 25 minutes of sustained emotional elevation to begin reorganizing your cellular receptor sites. During this time, your body initially resists the new emotional chemistry. You might feel agitated, bored, like you need to get up and do something, anything, to return to your familiar emotional baseline. But if you can breathe through this resistance, if you can stay with the elevated emotions despite your body's protests, something miraculous happens. Your cells begin dismantling the old receptor sites that craved stress chemicals and constructing new ones that resonate with elevated emotions. Your body starts becoming addicted to feeling good instead of feeling familiar. But this cellular reorganization doesn't happen through suppressing negative emotions or forcing positive ones. It happens through transmutation, through feeling your way through the old patterns while simultaneously cultivating new ones. When you notice yourself dropping into a familiar emotional state that no longer serves you, don't try to push it away. Instead, place your hand on your heart, breathe deeply, and ask your body, what do you need right now? Often, these familiar emotions are carrying messages, indicating unmet needs, unexpressed truths, parts of yourself that need attention and care. Honor the emotion, listen to its wisdom, then consciously choose to breathe yourself into a state that better serves your growth. This isn't about becoming emotionally flat or artificially positive. It's about expanding your emotional range, becoming fluent in states of consciousness that support the person you're becoming rather than reinforce the person you've been. The world you see around you is not happening to you, it's happening through you. Your external reality is a perfect mirror of your internal state, reflecting back the beliefs, emotions, and expectations that live beneath your conscious awareness. Most people approach change backwards, trying to rearrange their external circumstances hoping it will shift how they feel inside, never understanding that the outer world is always a reflection of inner consciousness. This quantum mirror operates through what physicists call the observer effect. Your consciousness doesn't just perceive reality, it participates in creating it. The emotions you carry, the beliefs you hold, the states you embody most frequently become the lens through which you perceive and interact with the world. When you change your internal state, you literally change what you're able to perceive, attract, and create in your external experience. But here's the trap that captures most seekers. They try to feel good about circumstances that haven't changed yet, which feels false to their system, creating internal resistance. Or they wait for circumstances to change before they allow themselves to feel the emotions of their desired reality, which keeps them trapped in the same vibrational frequency that created their current circumstances in the first place. True transformation happens when you learn to generate elevated internal states independent of external conditions. This doesn't mean denying reality or practicing toxic positivity. It means becoming so rooted in your essential nature, so connected to the field of infinite possibilities, that your internal weather becomes independent of the storms happening around you. The 20-minute practice becomes your daily appointment with this inner freedom. Every morning, before the world demands your attention, before you check your phone or read the news or engage with the problems waiting to be solved, you spend 20 minutes connecting with who you are beneath all the roles, responsibilities, and circumstances that typically define your sense of self. You cultivate gratitude not for what you have, but for what you are. You feel appreciation not for your circumstances, but for your capacity to create new circumstances. You generate love not because someone is loving you, but because love is your natural state when fear is absent. This inner work doesn't make you passive or disconnected from the world. Instead, it makes you tremendously powerful, because you're no longer at the mercy of external conditions for your sense of well-being, your clarity of perception, your ability to respond rather than react to whatever life presents. Your growth doesn't happen in isolation. Every family, every social group, every community operates as an interconnected energy system, and when one person begins to evolve, it disturbs the equilibrium of the entire system. This disturbance often triggers unconscious resistance from the people closest to you, not because they don't love you, but because your changes threaten the familiar dynamics that have provided stability, even if that stability was built on dysfunction. Families and social groups develop what biologist Rupert Sheldrake calls morphogenetic fields, invisible patterns of energy and information that maintain the group's collective identity. When you begin operating from a higher frequency, when you start responding instead of reacting, when you embody more peace, clarity, or joy than the system is accustomed to, You're essentially introducing a foreign frequency that the field works to normalize or reject. This resistance rarely comes as direct confrontation. Instead, it emerges as subtle pressure to return to your old patterns, comments designed to trigger your familiar emotional reactions, situations that seem to arise specifically to test your commitment to your new way of being. Family members might unconsciously create drama during your quiet time, friends might make jokes about your new practices, colleagues might seem extra challenging right when you're feeling more centered than usual. The guilt of evolving is one of the most insidious forms of self-sabotage. Deep in your subconscious lives a primitive loyalty to your tribe's survival patterns, even when those patterns no longer serve anyone. Part of you believes that if you become too happy, too successful, too free, you'll somehow betray or abandon the people you love. This unconscious guilt can cause you to sabotage your own growth to maintain belonging, to dim your light so others don't feel inadequate, to remain small so your family system doesn't have to change. 20 minutes of daily inner work gradually builds what could be called energetic independence, the ability to maintain your center regardless of the emotional weather swirling around you. As you become more rooted in your essential nature, less reactive to others' moods and projections, something interesting happens. The people in your life either rise to meet your new frequency, growing alongside you, or they naturally begin to drift away, making space for relationships that match your evolving consciousness. Sarah discovered this truth in the most painful way possible. For 43 years, she had been the family rescuer, the one everyone called during crises, the emotional caretaker who maintained harmony by absorbing everyone else's pain. When she began her 20-minute morning practice, when she started setting boundaries and speaking her truth, when she stopped automatically taking responsibility for everyone else's feelings, her family system went into shock. Some relationships ended, others deepened, and she learned that true love sometimes requires disappointing people who have grown accustomed to your dysfunction. The relationships that survived her evolution became authentic, reciprocal, based on who she actually was rather than who she had pretended to be to maintain belonging. The ancient Greeks understood something about time that our modern world has forgotten. They had two words for time: chronos and kairos. Chronos is clock time, linear time, the endless march of minutes and hours that governs our schedules and deadlines. Kairos is sacred time, vertical time, moments pregnant with meaning and possibility where transformation becomes available. Most of us live trapped in chronos, racing against clocks, measuring our lives in productivity and efficiency, believing that more time equals more opportunity for change. But transformation doesn't happen in chronos. It happens in kairos, those timeless moments when you drop beneath the surface of ordinary consciousness into the depths where genuine renewal occurs. 20 minutes of sacred time can accomplish what 20 years of hurried effort cannot. In kairos, you're not trying to get somewhere or achieve something. You're not planning or problem-solving or improving yourself. You're simply being present with what is, allowing your nervous system to settle so deeply that you begin to perceive the field of infinite possibilities that exists beyond your usual concerns and preoccupations. This is why presence generates synchronicities. When you're fully here, fully now, no longer scattered across past and future, you begin to notice the web of meaningful connections that was always surrounding you. Opportunities appear, people show up, solutions emerge not because you're trying harder, but because you're finally still enough to perceive the guidance that's always available. The urgency that characterizes most people's approach to change actually blocks the very miracles they're seeking. Urgency keeps you trapped in chronos, focused on when things will happen rather than opening to how they might happen. It keeps you pushing instead of allowing, forcing instead of flowing, trying to control divine timing instead of surrendering to the intelligence that orchestrates galaxies and seasons with perfect precision. In those 20 minutes of sacred time, you practice a different relationship with waiting. Not passive resignation, but active presence. Not giving up on your dreams, but releasing your grip on exactly how and when they must manifest. This is the difference between spiritual bypassing and spiritual maturity. Learning to hold your desires lightly while working toward them wholeheartedly. There's a quality of expectancy that emerges from sustained kairos practice, a knowing that what you need is already on its way, already being organized by forces far more intelligent than your planning mind. This expectancy isn't hope, which implies doubt, but a quiet confidence that comes from aligning with the flow of life rather than swimming against it. Gratitude is not a mental practice, it's a neurochemical event. When you feel genuine appreciation, not the obligatory "thank you" that slides off your tongue without touching your heart, but deep, cellular recognition of life's gifts, your brain releases a cascade of feel-good chemicals that literally restructure your neural networks. Real gratitude floods your system with dopamine, the neurotransmitter of reward and motivation. It triggers the release of serotonin, which elevates mood and promotes feelings of connection and well-being. It activates the parasympathetic nervous system, shifting your body out of stress response into healing mode. But here's what most people miss. These neurochemical benefits only occur when gratitude is sustained long enough to create lasting changes in your brain's reward circuits. 5 minutes of gratitude might make you feel better temporarily, but 20 minutes of sustained appreciation begins to rewire your brain's default setting, training your nervous system to notice and amplify positive experiences rather than scanning for problems and threats. Your brain develops what neuroscientists call a negativity bias as a survival mechanism, programmed to notice danger and threat more readily than safety and abundance. But sustained gratitude practice gradually shifts this ancient programming. The mistake most people make is trying to feel grateful for external circumstances while their internal state remains focused on what's missing or wrong. This creates a split between their genuine feeling and their mental effort, which their nervous system recognizes as incongruent. True gratitude arises not from circumstances but from connection to the mystery of existence itself, to the miraculous fact that you are here at all, to the countless invisible forces conspiring to keep you alive in every moment. Advanced practitioners learn to feel grateful for future realities before they manifest in physical form, generating the emotional signature of their desired outcomes while remaining completely present to what is. This isn't fantasy or wishful thinking, it's sophisticated emotional intelligence, training your nervous system to recognize and attract experiences that match your elevated emotional states. Spend 20 minutes feeling sincere gratitude for the person you're becoming, the love you're learning to embody, the wisdom you're developing through every challenge you face. Feel appreciation for your capacity to grow, to heal, to transform pain into wisdom. Generate genuine thankfulness for the intelligence that beats your heart, grows your hair, heals your wounds without any conscious effort on your part. This kind of gratitude creates a gravitational field that draws miracles into your experience, not through magical thinking but through neurochemical alignment with states of receptivity and possibility. Beneath the constant chatter of your thinking mind lies a vast field of intelligence that mystics have called the void, scientists call the quantum field, and you might simply recognize as the profound silence that exists between your thoughts. This silence isn't empty, it's pregnant with infinite potential, containing every possibility that has ever existed or ever could exist. Most people fear silence because it brings them face to face with whatever they've been avoiding through constant mental activity. But when you learn to rest in this pregnant emptiness for 20 minutes or more, when you can be still without needing to fill the space with thoughts, plans, or entertainment, you access a level of intelligence that your thinking mind could never reach alone. This isn't the silence of suppression, where you try to stop your thoughts through force or concentration. This is the silence of allowance, where thoughts arise and dissolve like waves on the ocean while you remain as the unchanging awareness in which all thoughts appear. In this spacious presence, solutions to problems you've been wrestling with for years suddenly become obvious. Creative insights emerge fully formed. You remember who you were before the world told you who you should be. The mental noise that fills most people's awareness isn't just random chatter. It's a defensive mechanism, a way of staying distracted from the profound silence that contains all possibilities. Your ego mind is terrified of this silence because in true silence, the ego dissolves, and you discover that you are so much more than the collection of thoughts, memories, and identities that you've been mistaking for your true self. 20 minutes of deep silence regularly accesses what quantum physicists call the field of pure potentiality. In this field, new realities can be selected from infinite possibilities. But this selection doesn't happen through thinking or choosing. It happens through being, through embodying the consciousness that you wish to express in form. In silence, you don't figure out how to create change. You become the change you want to see in the world. Between your thoughts, beneath your roles, beyond your personal history, there exists a version of you that has never been wounded, never been programmed, never been convinced that you are anything less than magnificent. This is your quantum identity, the person you are when all the layers of conditioning are stripped away, when you remember that you are not your past, your circumstances, or even your current personality. Most people live their entire lives without ever meeting this essential self, trapped in identities that were constructed in childhood and reinforced through years of repetitive thinking and feeling. They believe they are their job, their relationships, their problems, their limitations, never realizing that all of these are temporary costumes worn by an eternal, unlimited consciousness. The death of the false self is not a comfortable process. As you spend time in silence, as you observe your thoughts and emotions without identifying with them, you begin to recognize how much of what you call yourself is actually programming, conditioning, learned responses that have nothing to do with who you essentially are. This recognition can feel like dying, because in a very real sense, the limited version of yourself is dissolving to make space for your authentic nature to emerge. 20 minutes of deep inner work can show you glimpses of who you are when you're not trying to be anyone, not performing for others, not maintaining the exhausting persona that you've constructed to navigate the world. These glimpses can be startling, because you discover that your essential nature is far more peaceful, creative, and loving than the personality you've been managing. Some people resist this freedom because it requires taking full responsibility for their lives. It's easier to believe that your limitations are fixed, that your past determines your future, that you are a victim of circumstances beyond your control. But quantum identity operates from the understanding that you are the conscious observer of your experience, not the helpless subject of it. In those final moments of your 20-minute practice, you can literally dialogue with future versions of yourself, accessing the wisdom of who you're becoming to guide who you're being right now. This isn't imagination or fantasy. It's sophisticated communication with the aspects of your consciousness that already exist in potential form, waiting to be called forth through your choices, your attention, your willingness to grow into the fullness of who you came here to be. Dr. Bruce Lipton's groundbreaking research revealed something that changes everything we thought we knew about fate, genetics, and personal limitation. Your genes are not your destiny. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, every state of consciousness you embody is literally rewriting your genetic expression in real time. You are not a victim of your DNA. You are the conscious programmer of your cellular reality. This means that 20 minutes of elevated states, genuine gratitude, unconditional love, profound peace, is not just changing your mood or your thoughts. It's activating dormant genetic potentials, turning off genes associated with disease and limitation, turning on genes linked to health, creativity, and expanded consciousness. Your cells are listening to every emotion, responding to every state, restructuring themselves to match the internal environment you create through your consciousness. The ancestral patterns that have run through your family line for generations, the addiction, the depression, the anxiety, the limiting beliefs about money, love, or personal worth, these patterns are not fixed. They are information stored in your cellular memory, and like all information, they can be updated, transformed, and transcended through conscious choice sustained over time. Joe Dispenza's research confirms what mystics have known for millennia: when you change your energy, you change your life. But this change requires more than intention or insight. It requires what he calls neurological consistency, the ability to maintain elevated states long enough for your nervous system to reorganize itself around your new reality rather than your old patterns. Your daily 20 minutes become a gift not just to yourself, but to every person whose life you touch, to every future generation that will inherit the genetic expressions you activate through your consciousness. The elevated states you embody create ripples of possibility that extend far beyond what you can see or measure. You become a blessing to the world simply by becoming who you truly are. This is your quantum responsibility, your opportunity to break cycles of limitation and activate possibilities that have been waiting within you since the moment you were born. Every day you choose to ignore this window of transformation is not just a day of personal stagnation. It's a day of postponing the gifts you came here to give, the love you came here to share, the unique contribution only you can make to the healing of our world. The question isn't whether you have time for 20 minutes of inner work. The question is whether you can afford another day of living below your potential, another year of the same patterns, another lifetime of wondering what might have been possible if you had simply chosen to begin. Your transformation begins now, in this moment, with this breath, with this choice to honor the magnificence that lives within you, waiting to be awakened, expressed, and shared with a world that desperately needs what only you can offer.